Hey guys, welcome back to some more AFK Arena. Today we're back over in the YouTube account, and as you can see, we did hit Masters if you joined us a little bit earlier today. So very cool to get all the resources out of there. But in today's video, we are going to give a huge shout out to Rocket A and the Ghoulish Gallery guide that he put out with the collections. Now we know this is an absolute sticking point. It is an absolute pain in the ass when it comes to building out these collections. And for a majority of players, they are not building them out at all. But before we get into the guide, I do want to share something that is coming in the next patch that I want to take a look at. If you guys remember from the dev notes, that is right. Stargazer #1, hero probability increasing from 2 to 2.5. This is coming with the next patch, and this is also coming with a massive update when it comes to the Stargazer and the Temple of Time. Removed artifact materials and arena tickets from the Stargazer, absolutely amazing. Added new tier 1 mythic gear, added new common, elite, and common bizarre totems. That's right. When you think of the ability to build out your collections, this is going to give you totems. And of course, we can convert the common and the elite totems into the legendary totems. But through the Temple of Time, we are going to be getting legendary bizarre totems. This is probably one of the biggest, which is patch 1.144, that we're going to see this update. Again, hero probability going up in the Temple of Time. Tier 3 mythic gear is going to be joining us in there, and the new legendary bizarre totems, which again, anywhere that we can get these things is going to be crazy. So let's hop over and look at this guide. All right, guys, so this is a guide that was actually shared a little bit earlier on Reddit, and it is breaking down every single hero. And again, big shout out to Rocket A. I have to put the guide link down below because there is so much incredible content within here and visually absolutely stunning. And you can see not only breaking down where the heroes are using, but also with the collections that they're being used in. So this is going to be kind of interesting to see because, again, there are so many meta heroes and there are so many heroes in AFK Arena. When you start looking at the Cursed Realm, the Nightmare Corridor, the Treasure Scramble, really building these heroes out in their entirety for multiple teams is, of course, going to require 25 plus heroes. So it is kind of crazy. Now, of course, he breaks it down, and I'm not going to go through every single hero, but I am going to go through a lot of the primary ones, even looking here with like the Awakened version of Athalia, attack, physical pierce, crit damage amplification, which are the huge ones. Now, it says, even though she is a warrior hero, the buff, and I believe that is the buff, is extremely high since she is an agility hero. That means you want, again, looking at, this is Saurus's collection right here on her in most scenarios that give her even more crit and crit damage. So you can take her and get that crit damage amplification, adding up to physical pierce. So when it comes to this hero, it is just going to be absolute all out crazy damage when you're building it. So if you're using any cards, if you're building actually any of these heroes kind of based on design, you want to prioritize what you have in here. Now, of course, there are substats. There's a bunch of different things that if you are unlucky to draw these, but these are going to be the primaries that you're looking for. Then, of course, you see a lot of heroes do kind of run some of the similar ones. And of course, looking at Demia. Now, Demia is one of the heroes that is kind of niche when it comes to the collection, which is with the Mahira level 3. Now, this is kind of broken, if you know, and if we use this in the last Abyssal Expedition. With the Mahira level 3, you have the ability to cheat death. She also possesses the ability to cheat death in her toolkit or her skills, meaning that the survivability, if you're triggering both, you can keep your team alive because of her abilities and the inability to essentially kill Demia, which of course only comes from that Mahira level 3 collection that we do get out of there. But even looking here, attack, full attack, and magical pierce. So definitely buffing up some of the attack. Now, of course, with being a support hero, the full attack is going to go on the rest of your team. So if you're running this with the Awakened version of Athalia, if you're running it with Liberta, if you're looking at a lot of other heroes, this is going to make a really big difference. And of course, it's going to make a big difference depending on the game mode. Because when we look at here at Liberta, again, kind of going through the primary heroes, attack, magical pierce, and then this is actually Erosion. You can see Erosion, which is being used in the Cursed Realm to really amp it up. But then you start getting into the Treasure Scramble and you notice the Erosion is no longer there. Then, of course, the sub in there, if you're looking at what you can build on this hero, what you can actually get. Because again, When you look at this and you think of attack, magical pierce, and erosion, chances of getting all of those might not be in one run, might not be on the same collection, but you do have some subs over here. So essentially, the way that I was reading this is putting, different things in here that are going to work incredibly well. And of course, the hero can use 2 different collections. Now, this, of course, can provide and is a major issue when it comes to AFK Arena, because depending on the game mode, if you're copying essentially the formations in there, you don't know what it's going to equip on there. That is the reason why a lot of players have actually went in, built within the team comps and built the groups built on there. That way it is all saved and it is changed depending on where you are, depending on the collections. Again, when you start min-maxing in this game, it is insane kind of how far and how tedious this can get with heroes within here. Then, of course, just coming down here a little bit further, look at the flexibility when you look at Matria and all of these different game modes. Most benefit from 2 collections. So either their control unit as a DPS, and of course, looking at putting a different in here with the proficiency, looking at, again, a lot of different things in here with the insight based on the crowd control, but it depends on what you're using. Now, of course, looking at a few, like when we look at Lucilla, attack and defense right there, and of course, the full erosion, the energy recovery, which is the ERR. We have the attack, and of course, right there, the PRF, which I believe is the proficiency, if I remember correctly. But we do have Lava Tune in here. And again, when you think of the primary damage dealers within AFK Arena, a lot of these collections can be kind of swapped around, because even when you look at a hero, let's say right here as Scarlet, we have attack, magical pierce, crit damage, amplification. When you come back up here, it's the same with a lot of heroes. You have attack, you have the crit. And again, this is where some of these collections are going to kind of lay over between all of the heroes. And if you're looking at some of the major primary damage dealers, you also have to think exactly what they use. For instance, right here with Palmer, we have magical pierce and we have attack. A lot of heroes based on stats, it depends whether they need the magical pierce, if they need the attack, because a lot of skills are tied to the attack. Just like we see with the awakened version of Chimera, she is actually tied to hit points. So again, it's a little bit different. It's kind of crazy when you start looking at it in again, kind of min-maxing with all of these. Now, of course, crit damage amplification, crit heal on this hero. Looking at the awakened version of Belinda, attack, crit damage amplification, and magical pierce. And you can note over here, since she's usually paired with Palmer, we're seeing quite a bit. You can see with Palmer and the Panda, that is right. You can see that the crit damage amplification becomes relevant again because the caps are increased, and then she does really benefit from the Oden level 3. So if you are looking at heroes and building them out, looking for optimal collections. Now, we know when collections were released, this is exactly what I did. Was I went through and I tried to run collections and tried to build collections specifically on a lot of different heroes, which worked incredibly well. And of course, looking at a few others down here, looking at right here, the awakened version of Lucius. Now, the big thing with him is when you look at some of the defense. Now, defense for him is the biggest priority because his SP effect converts defense to attack. And the defense collections are way stronger than we see with the attack collections, which is kind of interesting. So again, you can really buff him up to maximize the damage in this formation, making him and really going kind of crazy, crazy high. And then you can see defensive runes are not mentioned because they're great. When you look at the defensive runes and even looking some of these right here, like DR right there, there's a few that work in here, but when you're looking on the defensive side of collections, most of them are usually just the default. When you look at defense, when you look at the full defense, even looking at everything else that we have for a majority of these heroes, not a huge benefit when it comes to the defensive runes. And as you can see, guys, this is one of 5 pages of this guide, which is just, again, just kind of absolutely massive when you look at the build of this thing. Because of that, of course, we get into the next one, which of course right here is Villanelle, which works incredibly well. We have the awakened version of Sophia right up here. And again, a lot of players were questioning the erosion. Awakened Sophia is an erosion heavy unit since most of her damage comes from the health loss. Therefore, the erosion is obviously excellent. Now, again, a lot of players were not building collections or thought about collections and running the awakened version of Sophia with Erosion. A lot of players still question what it does. But overall, you can see a lot of these are super effective in a ton of different ways. Even looking here like the awakened version of Leica, this is almost a perfect collection that I have. I do have one with attack, physical pierce, crit damage, amplification, and I believe I do also have crit on there. But of course, you can see right here, when you start running the Panda in there, and then of course having the level 3 collection will really maximize the runes in there. But overall, the awakened version of Leica doing a crazy amount of damage. Then of course we have Baden. Now, super interesting with the awakened version of Baden, because of course, two different collections, and two very different scenarios. In the Curse Realm, you can see right there, it is about the insight in the Erosion, since most of the damage comes from the third skill. In the other scenarios, you want attack and physical pierce, which of course is going to maximize the damage. Again, kind of changing these out in the Nightmare Corridor, where it's more of a burst combination, where it is right here, you're going to burn them down a lot faster versus the full minute 30 that you're getting out of some of these. Now, like we were saying earlier, with some of the heroes, looking at the attack, Ivan is based almost entirely on attack, which he scales very, very heavy with attack, since both the shields and the attack buffs are based on his own attack rating. So literally, if you can get 3 or 4 attack on him, you're going to be doing incredibly well. Then, like we were saying earlier, the awakened version of Shamira is based on HP MP, which is interesting for attack. Very unique because, of course, all of her damage is provided from the HP. So again, when you start looking at this, I'm giving her the most HP, literally stacking everything on there, is going to work incredibly well. Doesn't need a high level collection, but overall just basing it and doing a lot more HP on there. Even have, look at these guys. We have our Draconic heroes in here, which again, when you start looking at the attack, the insight, and then of course right here with the proficiency, because remember, Nyla is a super crowd control, insight, crowd control, and attack. And then of course, very similar to the awakened version of Leica, we have the hero really maxing out damage, attack, physical pierce, crit damage, amplification on Gwen, which is again, really, really broken, trying to maximize the damage that she is doing in there. Little bit of insight depending on the game mode. And then of course, getting into some of the other ones, which right here, guys, there is Rimuru and there is Shuna. Now Shuna, of course, looking in here, one of the 2 latest dimensionals, very early, but she seems to be an absolute top tier hero is what we're seeing. We are seeing her used in every single game mode, which is kind of crazy. So looking again at the proficiency and looking at the insight, very excellent on her. She consumes energy, which the energy regeneration in there would work very well, even though she already has the plus or the 30% energy regeneration. It could go a lot faster. And then of course the healing. And then when we look at Rimuru, the exact same full attack, and then of course the proficiency in there makes a really big difference. Now, ultimately, with Rimuru, with some of these heroes, we're not seeing a crazy amount of effectiveness with Rimuru, but Shuna is really, really broken. Then, of course, guys, before we conclude, I wanted to look at the collections themselves. And this one, of course, we'll scroll it out a little bit, is the actual collection. So I know a lot of players, it's funny because I love how Rakude put this. Bad, good, top tier. You can see which ones are kind of the very, very big priority and ones that you really don't need to build. So even looking here at the Mahira kit, bad. You can see there's a couple of heroes, definitely could work. Level 3 is the absolute top tier. Looking here, good, average, very good. So of course, average kind of right in the middle, meaning you're either going to build like a level 1 collection or a level 3 collection because it is very, very imperative. Top tier, bad, and very bad. So again, when you're looking at Tassie's collection, no need to use those level ups, which are absolutely Covenant. And this is important to know and very important to note is when you start looking at like Rowan's collection, the very good is level 3. Now there is only one way that you could, well, really 2 ways that you can get level 3. Number 1 is you have to have the extra slot. So you have to 100% guaranteed have the extra slot in there to pick up the levels because you're going to have to use 2 levels. Most players are going to run the level up in there. which essentially will give you one extra slot. You could run a secondary level, which is kind of RNG, or you could run 3 mythic in there. You could run Miracle Worker with 2 levels up. That is going to guarantee you that you're going to get one, but you can also run Miracle Worker 1 level up and have 1 card in your pocket. That way you can actually use it and get that guaranteed level 3. I did the exact same thing with the Mahira collection, again, based on the Abyssal Expedition. I did the exact same thing right down here with Leica's collection. I did the exact same thing, I think, with the Awakened version of Athalia. No, it might have been the Leica collection that I did, and I built it out in its entirety to the very good. You can see even some of these are average, bad, very bad, but you want to make sure, again, that you're building them out to the point you want to. And it shows right here, do not run Rowan level 1. Most of the level 1 should be essentially Tassie. And you can see there's a lot of different build outs. Remember to use these for level 3 run. There's the Miracle Worker, the level, and the level, which that does not guarantee it, unfortunately. This one on the right side, the Miracle Worker, the level, and the level card is the only way you are 100% guaranteed to get it. I have run this first combination, which gives you a probability of getting a much higher level, or the probability of pulling a second level. And I have unfortunately went through it and not pulled it at all, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, even using some of our legendary cards in there. Then of course, looking at the ability to get these legendary cards is the really big thing that we look at. And again, looking at some of this kind of, let's hop over and we'll get back into AFK Arena. And I want to kind of look at this because, of course, when you're building these out, when you start building in here, you want to set your wish list. This is really the ideal wish list. We have Miracle Worker, we have the level. Even looking in here in the last 2 that we have the ability to get the, I think it's the Physical Pierce and the Magical Pierce. Those are the 2 that we're building out of here. Now, when it comes to staffs and the update that we're going to be dropping, it's going to be a game changer because you're going to be able to take these, combine them like we were just saying, and getting those mythical totems is what you want to use, and only the mythic totems. Now, of course, when you start building these out, you will get cards out of here based on essentially where you're at. And you can see right here, if you use 1 mythic, if you use 2 mythic, if you use 3 mythic cards, they are guaranteed to get you higher level abilities, which is huge. So you're guaranteed 2 mythic abilities, and the third one, you're guaranteed 3 mythic abilities. So when you're going in here and you have this unlocked, you can see spending legendary bizarre totems to receive the following permanent buffs. And then of course, you can also get these cards, which are going to guarantee you a mythic ability. And this is the big one, like we said earlier with the custom skill scroll, is if you run it with a few variations, if you run it with Miracle Worker and a level, you're guaranteed to get 1 level. This will guarantee you, that is why I own one of these, but this will guarantee you to get the second one. So I know with the drop in the patch that's coming up with the Awakened version of Entendre, we're actually going to be able to do the summons for the Awakened version of Entendre with all of the changes to not only the rates, but we are also going to have the changes to the legendary totems to be in there. So I feel like, guys, this is going to be the biggest, probably most massive update for patch-wise, and really the impact of the heroes themselves is going to be kind of crazy. All right, guys, so that is going to do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think, and as always, thank you guys for watching.